Fly fishing is probably one of the most recognizable sports you can see. I think a lot of that is due to fly casting, but more specifically, the loop or the shape of the line as it travels through the air. Loops, or the shape of the line as it travels through the air, have kind of this U shape to them. And you'll notice we have two segments of the loop. We have a top leg of the loop, which is also called the fly leg, and we have a bottom leg of the loop, which is also called the rod leg. What I want to do is walk through a couple of different types of loops. The first one is a narrow loop, and it looks like this. Now, a narrow loop is formed from a mostly straight line path of the rod tip. We get that when we match the bend in the rod to a proper casting arc. Let me show that cast again. Now you'll notice with this cast, I have a nice smooth acceleration, an abrupt stop, and a proper pause. It's a well executed cast. Typically it's less than 3 feet in height. It'll have a straight top leg, and this is the most efficient and best loop that we can make for a variety of situations. It's gonna cast further, it's more accurate, and it's easier to control. The next loop would be a wide loop. A wide loop is formed from an upward arcing or doming path of the rod tip. We get this when we have too much arc or not enough bend in the rod. Often that's formed from using too much wrist or not stopping properly in the front and the back cast. There are some practical applications of this cast, like for slackline presentations, but in general it's less efficient. It doesn't move as well, and you can see that when I go to deliver the cast, it often ends up in a pile. Tailing loops are caused from a dip down path of the rod tip. Often we get this from having too much bend in the rod and too narrow of an arc, and they look like this. It's where the top leg of the loop dips below the bottom leg of the loop. They're really deleterious to fishing. This is where we get wind knots, or otherwise known as tailing loop knots. These are bad casting knots, where when we throw this tailing loop, we actually get an overhand knot in the leader or in the tippet. So remember, a good loop is formed from a good progressive, smooth acceleration to an abrupt stop and a pause.